And I've actually had these conversations with you when you were younger. What do you do different? What makes you different than your teammates or the team across the field? What are you sacrificing? What are you doing different? How hard are you working? I tell high school kids, who gets up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning and works out?
Arteaga drives one to center. Miller hustling over. Diving catch by Ian Miller. A great catch.
3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Nine Hole Podcast. This is Ian Miller, and today I am joined by somebody, very special in Major League Baseball. Had a 25-year MLB career, absolute legend in the game. JAMIE Moyer, what's going on? How you doing?
I'm doing well, Ian. Great to be on your show, and just winding down into the holidays here. I've got kids coming to visit for Christmas. And it's going to be a great holiday. Wishing everybody out there a wonderful holiday season. And let's get after it.
I love it. I love it. Let's do it. So I'm going to jump right into it. This is the Nine Hole Podcast. We are speaking to the next generation of nine-hole hitters, underdogs, underappreciated, undervalued, maybe underdeveloped, whatever it is. You are a perfect guy that I wanted to have on. I wanted to talk about your story, the resilience, all the hard work that kind of went into it. People obviously can look up online and see everything about you, right? See all the numbers, see all the accolades. But maybe what they don't fully process is you did all that not throwing 102 miles an hour, right? You weren't Nolan Ryan. You weren't blowing people away. So that's kind of what I wanted to focus on today. Hear a little bit about just the determination, the hard work, and kind of the struggles that you kind of overcame to get to the top, if that's cool.
Yeah, I can go back to my high school years. I was a really good player in high school, but I was 5'10", 145 pounds.
Yeah.
But I could throw strikes, and I had a big loopy curveball that I could get over the plate. And we all know in high school, times have changed, but most high school hitters can't hit a curveball. Or don't hit it well, or don't hit it consistently. But I was able to, have a fastball curveball. I was as I said, very successful in high school. My grades weren't that great, though. I wasn't, I didn't understand that, hey, you got to be a student too. I didn't understand that word student/athlete, right? I just wanted to be the athlete. So I took the hard path, and I had an opportunity to go to St. Joe's University in Philadelphia. But my grades and SAT scores weren't high enough, so I had to go to night school to prove to the school that I could do the schoolwork. So I worked at home. Actually, it was about a little less than an hour from my home. I worked in the morning till lunchtime, and then I went to practice first. Usually that doesn't happen. Went to practice first, and then I went to night school in the evening, and then I drove home. I did my homework and got up the next morning and did it all over again. I proved that I could do the work in the fall, and was eligible for the spring, and moved on to campus. And, next 3 years had a, pretty decent career at St. Joe, and played some, competitive summer ball, and got drafted in the 6th round by the Cubs in 1984. And, had no idea what was going to happen, what my career was going to look like. Went to Mesa, Arizona, had never been west of the Mississippi in my life. And, that was an unbelievable experience as well. Being in situations with kids from all over the country and the Latin American countries, I had no idea what that was going to feel like.
Yeah.
But I also felt like a fish out of water, because I felt like I didn't have the repetitions, I didn't have the size, and even then, velocity wasn't as it is now. But my velocity was 82, 83, and the average major league velocity at that point in time was about 87. And there were a lot of guys in the upper 80s and 90 to 92 was considered now, that velocity then was now the 100-mile velocity now.
Got it.
Lee Smith eventually was our closer, and he was probably 92, 94. We're in Wrigley Field where there were no lights, and then the shadows would come into play in the afternoon. So that made it difficult for hitters as well. But it's a difference in eras and times of the game of baseball.
That makes a ton of sense, man. That makes a ton of sense. So a 25-year MLB career, right? Played for a bunch of teams. You became the oldest pitcher in MLB history to win a game MLB All-Star with the Mariners in 03, World Series champion with the Phillies in 08. Man, I was at that parade. Mariners Hall of Fame in 2015, and a plethora of awards for philanthropy, community service, giving back, man. When you were growing up, you're going through, the grind, night school, right? Going to classes, just trying to prove yourself, man. When did it kick in that maybe this could be a reality? Like, when was this when was the major leagues a dream for you?
Well, it was always a dream,
Okay.
from when I was little league, right? But did I know it was going to happen? I didn't. And I played other sports. I played midget football. I played basketball, and I played golf actually as a fall sport
Really?
in high school. And but baseball was always my passion and my first love, and I enjoyed doing it. I had passion for the game. I was willing to play. I was willing to work. But playing the other sports, I also believe helped me. Because I think you can burn out, and we see that in today's game with the teenage kids that
Yeah.
are playing it all year round. The game passes them by, or they get hurt and things like that. I think the healthy thing for me was being able to play basketball, being able to play football, being able to play golf. Different rules, different teammates, all those different things. And times were different. Golly, we had no internet. News wasn't immediate, right? It was just go play. There was just some wholesomeness to it, right? You played just because you love to play and you're with your buddies.
That's
Right
right.
now, it's like, oh, if I do something well, I'm going to read about it on Twitter, or I'm going to see it on Instagram, or it's all over it's on ESPN, MLB Network, and they're all great venues, but we've lost. I feel like in some fashion here, we've lost some of that that passion, that hometown, small town kind of thing. But when did this all kind of come full circle for me? In college, I was starting to, in high school, they were saying I was going to get drafted. That never happened. Well, you're too small. You don't throw hard. I was always told the things I couldn't do. And even in college, I was told that as well. But as long as you have an opportunity, as long as you have a uniform on, you have a chance. And I didn't understand that as a younger player. As I got into my big league career, I started to understand that. And then as I got into my 30s, then I started to really, I started to mature. I had a ton of failure. And to me, I learned that failure can be a great thing because you can start to pull things out of the failures, right? And you can learn. There are experiences that may not be the best experience, but there's something to pull away from it, to learn from. And I will go to my grave saying that you learn by failing, because when you're successful, you're thinking you're on top of the world, right? So
Yeah.
having failure, and have played with guys that have been hugely successful, some hugely talented. So it didn't really matter when and if they failed. A Ken Griffey Jr., an Alex Rodriguez, a Randy Johnson, a Nolan Ryan, a Cal Ripken Jr. These are all great players, right? And they failed, but they didn't fail as much as the rest of us mortals, right?
Yeah.
But the guys that I kind of resonated with was guys with the less ability, and now you got to work. And I tell my kids all the time, and I've actually had these conversations with you when you were younger. What do you do different? What makes you different than your teammates or the team across the field? What are you sacrificing? What are you doing different? How hard are you working? I tell high school kids, who gets up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning and works out? Probably not too many, right? That makes you different. You're sacrificing something. So you're not playing video games at 10, 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. You're in bed, you're recovering, you're sleeping, you're resting. You're drinking your water, you're taking, eating healthy, taking whatever, hopefully not supplements, but your vitamins and things like that to put you keep you in a healthy place. But what is going to make you different when you walk onto that high school baseball field? And if you have the great opportunity to play in college, what makes you different? Why is a college coach recruiting you? Right? What do you do? And you should have some of those, be able to answer some of those questions. And yeah, I can hit long home runs. Well, it doesn't matter if they just skim the back of the fence or they go 100 feet over the fence. It's the same amount of runs,
That's right.
right? Can you hit the ball the other way? Can you sacrifice yourself as a hitter? Can you bunt? Can you hit and run? Can you steal a base? Do you hustle? Do you run hard down the first baseline? You don't have to look in the stands to make sure people are watching you. Play the game correctly. Do you understand how to play the game? Right? What is the game about? What were you taught when you were in Little League? How much of that have you forgotten? Right? And we get caught up, and as you mentioned earlier, the pizzazz, flipping the bat, not hustling to first base, not backing up bases, not preparing, not caring.
Yeah.
Those things become evident to those who are watching you. If you're being recruited for a college baseball or professionally, they're scouting you. They're watching everything. It's so competitive at these levels that, one silly mistake, are you doing something stupid on Twitter? Are you doing something stupid on Instagram? That's not okay. Right. And these teams, they follow all that. Right.
100%.
So, it's hard to learn how to be a professional at the high school, college levels, even at the lower minor league levels. But you got to ask questions. You got to talk. You got to be a sponge.
Yeah.
Right. You got to take the information in. And sometimes it's going to be hard. And like I said, going back to failure, I played with a lot of guys that were very successful through their lives and got the pro ball and really never struggled. And they get to the big leagues and they struggle for the first time. It's earth shattering for them.
For sure.
Right?
For
and
sure.
We're all going to struggle. You've tasted it. I've tasted it. You go 0 for 2 weeks, or you can't get the ball to the infield, or you make a throw to the wrong base, or I get knocked out of the game in the second inning. I got 4 days to sleep on that. So you start to learn, right? You're learning, but you're also, what are you bringing to your team every day? What do you bring to your team? Right? You have to bring something to your team, whether you're practicing, whether you're playing. Challenge your coaches with good, healthy questions. How can I get better? Why am I starting? Why am I not starting? It's easy to ask the question, why am I not starting? But has anybody ever asked a coach, why am I starting over this kid?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting question, right?
Yeah.
And the coach might say, well, because you do this and this and this, but you could do this better. Is that a negative criticism? No, that's a positive criticism for
Constructive.
me. Right? Or at the end of your season, hey, coach, can I have a couple minutes of your time? All right, you watch me play all season. What can I do to become a better player? And again, it's an opinion, but in your opinion, what can I do to become a better player? And hopefully your coach will be honest with you. But if you're going to ask that question, be prepared to hear something that you don't want to hear. Right? But again, take it as an opinion and a positive criticism. And now it gives you something to go home and work on, think about and work on in the off season. And then probably one of the bigger parts of the biggest things, especially when you get to the pro level, is the game that happens from here up. And it becomes the mental game.
Yeah.
I have played with so many guys way more talented than me, but mentally from the shoulders up, they just weren't prepared and weren't there. And I was that guy too early in my career. I had the great opportunity to meet a gentleman by the name of Harvey Dorfman, who was one of the authors in the book, The Mental Guide to Baseball, or Mental Game of Baseball.
Yep.
It's a book that could be purchased on the internet. Wonderful, wonderful book on the mental game of baseball. It's not teaching you how to throw a curveball or hit a curveball or run the bases or be fundamentally correct. It's talking and teaching you about the mental part of the game. And that's the part of the game that wears people down.
Yes. No, it makes a ton of sense. And obviously, if you don't have, the correct training or the ideas in place to maybe get out of that mental funk, you might be in a little bit of trouble, man. So that's definitely something that I wanted to ask you about specifically, Harvey, man. So through your journey, through all the trials and tribulations, right? So I have it written down here. So 1984 draft, you debut with the Cubs, 86, right? And then you found some success. You established yourself. Things seem to be going well. And then you're traded to Texas in the Rafael Palmeiro trade. You battled some shoulder and performance issues. Then you were released, right? So you were released after the season by St. Louis in 90. And when we talk about perseverance, man, this is I love this, right? So minor leagues in 91 after having found success in the big leagues. Then you were released again. Then 1992, you're back with the Cubs in spring training, and then you get released. And then you spend the rest of the season in Detroit in the minor leagues. Man, up until that point, have you ever been, the correct phrase, I guess, is kicked in the face. Have you ever been kicked in the face that hard before? And, man, how were you able to get out of that?
Well, again, it comes back to what I brought up earlier in the podcast is I had passion for the game. I loved the game. And I still felt like there was something that I could contribute to the game. I didn't know what it was. But again, I continued, even though with all those releases, I still had an opportunity. I was in Toledo, AAA with the Tigers. And look, when I signed there, they said, you're going to be a mop-up man. You're only going to pitch the crappy innings, the blowout games. The first day I got there, I threw 1 inning in relief, and we went on a road trip. 4 days later, I started, and I started for the rest of the season. So, I mean, did I know that was going to happen? No. But did I know there was going to be even what I was told was a little bit of an opportunity? That's all I cared about was opportunity. And the rest then relied on me, my preparation, my mindset, my work ethic. And, I worked hard, but my performance on the field dictated my next opportunity, right? It wasn't, well, you lied to me. You told me this, you told me that. I learned at that point in my life and my career, and I was basically thinking this was going to be my last opportunity. I was 29 years old. I had been, as you mentioned, released several times. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going for it. I went back to basics. I went back to where I had the success because I think I lost some focus of that. And what got me into pro ball, what got me in that short up to I was just shy of 5 years in the big leagues, what got me to the big leagues. And I started to, kind of revamp that. I didn't change anything drastically. And again, it was really came down to my consistency or inconsistencies, right? That kept me out of the big leagues. But again, I had to become prepared for a potential opportunity. I didn't know there was going to be another opportunity, but I had to be prepared for that opportunity if it ever came.
Ooh, that's powerful there. I love that. I love that. So you talked about Harvey earlier. You talked about the book he wrote. You have a book out as well. Just tell me I can't, right? So you talk about the mental side of the game. The mental side of the game is huge for you. So when you kind of, went to Harvey and relied on him maybe for some expertise, guidance, help, what types of things did he help you with? Like, what did he do for you?
We talked about how I think or what I thought about, what I focused on. And, a lot of things I was thinking about or focusing on were things that I couldn't control. That, what we call today noise, right? I was concerned about the noise, right? Instead of being really ultra focused on me, my preparation, physical preparation, which I don't think I ever lacked with that, but it was my mental preparation.
Ooh.
And that's what started, again, I spent 2.5 days with Harvey at his home. And it was eye-opening and life-changing. And it took for me to work on it. And basically from 1991 till 2012, I worked on it on a daily basis. Whether I was in a game, not in a game, watching a game, preparing for a game, I created a plan. I kind of redid, when I was a young player and I'd get the starting lineup before a game at, say, for a 7:00 game, and I got the lineup at 3:00, I'd pitch 2 or 3 games in the clubhouse before I even went out on the field. Well, by the time I was into July and August, mentally, I was exhausted.
Got it.
And, trying to pitch those games in the clubhouse, what did it mean? What did it do for me? Well, I'm going to throw this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Well, how did I even know that I was going to be in that position to do it? Right. So what it got me into was taking notes on hitters, having conversation with my catchers, having conversation with my pitching coach, looking at scouting reports. And not until actually in the mid-90s when I went to Baltimore did I understand what a pregame bullpen was about, how to prepare for a pregame bullpen. And Mike Mussina taught me some things, so here again, I've been around a lot of players and we have conversation and you learn, you give and take from those conversations, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Mike Mussina says, you know what? I just go to the bullpen to get loose. Because what I have in the bullpen, I may not bring across the white line.
Ooh.
So I'm going down there for timing, tempo, rhythm, and feel. And I'm going there to get loose. And now when I cross that white line, I'm ready to compete. Ooh. And as a pitcher, sometimes you have stuff in the bullpen and you cross that white line, you don't have it on the field. Or you don't have it in the bullpen and you find it on the field, right? Or you have it on the field and you lose it, right? For an inning or two or, whatever it might be, right? So every day is different. So you have to create, I don't know if anybody out there golfs, we call it course management on the golf course, right? Well, it's the same thing on the pitcher's mound. And now that circle that I'm in is my office, right? And I focus on what I can control and the task at hand. And when a hitter comes to the plate, that's strike one. Quality strike, strike one. And then I work off of that. If it's a ball, then I have to get back into the count. If it's a strike, now I can be a little more aggressive. What's the situation in the game? Who's the hitter? Who's on deck? Are we early in the game, the middle part of the game, the latter part of the game? I mean, there's a lot of things that are going on that you're trying to manage, right? And not lose focus of what you're trying to do, right? So I could talk about this for hours and days because it's fun, and it brings back a lot of great memories for me. But again, everybody's different. It's not cookie cutter, and there's one way to do it. And then, the other thing is we've all experienced this. This is a thing that I've really come to understand with all players. As you get into tight situations of the game speeds up, right? And how do we slow it down? How do we have that mental conversation with ourselves to stay focused? And all of a sudden, the noise of the crowd. And Doug Jones was a relief pitcher when I was with the Orioles, and he was deeper in the games. He was a setup guy or closer at times, and he would say, the louder it gets in the stadium, the softer I throw. Now think about that. Think about that. Now, those who have not been in that situation can't probably comprehend that. But when you think about that, right, you get into a bases loaded or a tight situation in a game, and the hitter's just standing there trying to turn that bat handle into sawdust, right? Yeah. And he's thinking about, I'm going to hit this ball 800 feet, right? And as a pitcher, if I have control of my thoughts and my emotions, I can say, oh, no, I'm going to locate, number one, but number two, I'm going to take something off of this pitch. And now all of a sudden, because all it takes, when you're in a jam as a pitcher, it takes one pitch. Yeah. One pitch to get out of it, right? You make a quality pitch in a quality location. It's a ground ball double play. It's a strikeout. It's a pop-up. Your defenses are your friends, right? Your catcher's your buddy. And, but you got to have that confidence. You have to have those thoughts to be able to do that.
Ooh, so that is something that, at least throughout the entirety of my professional career, that's something that I struggle with. Being with the Mariners, right? Coming over when DePoto, Andy McKay came over, and they were big time mental skills guys coming over from the Rockies. And so they kind of implemented, these routines and these mental skills coaches, kind of just fine tuning the mind, being able to lock in and kind of quiet, things when things are the loudest, right? So you just said, being able to throw it, I guess what you said, the slowest when it's the loudest. So like, how would you be able to do that? Is there something mentally that you would be able to do in a big situation when the wheels are spinning, right? Bases loaded. How are you able to lock in and just focus on the task at hand?
For me, it's self-talk.
Okay.
Having a conversation like you and I are speaking right now. There's 50,000 people screaming and hollering. Can I have a conversation with myself like you and I are talking right now? Or is it I'm wound up like a bull in a china shop and I'm saying I have to do this, I have to do that. Yeah. No, it's having that control of your thoughts and your emotions and your body, right? And that comes with practice, right? It comes with experience. But you have to have an awareness to it all.
Yeah.
How am I thinking? What am I feeling in the box? Right? I have to do this. No, I'll get to eat tonight. I'll have a roof over my head. It's not it's not going to change my life. But guess what? I have to have an awareness to it. How am I thinking? How am I feeling? How am I reacting to that situation? Am I staying within myself to my own skill sets to be able to perform? Or am I trying to do something that's, I couldn't pitch like Randy Johnson, right? I couldn't pitch like Mike Mussina, right? I couldn't pitch like Nolan Ryan. I had to pitch like Jamie, right? So I had to start to understand, who is Jamie? What makes Jamie go, right? Who is Ian? Well, Ian's not a home run hitter. At times I think you had spells in your career, they wanted you to hit home runs. You're not that guy. You're the speed guy. I mean, your feet didn't touch the ground when you ran, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's, hit the ball on the ground, hit line drives, get on base, put pressure on the pitcher, put pressure on the defense. That was your forte, right? But did you know that, right? And early on, you probably didn't know that. You knew you were fast. You knew you were talented. And that's the thing. That's what I'm talking about. As a player, you have to start to understand, what do I do well? And what do I need to work on? Again, it goes back to that conversation with your coaches at the end of the year.
For sure.
Hey, what can I be better or what can I do to become better? What can I work on? What do I need to sharpen? And then if you have some good skill sets, keep those sharp, but work on the things that you're not good at. Because again, if you get the opportunity to play college baseball and are fortunate enough to go on to professional baseball, you're playing with the best of the best in the world, right? And now it becomes a livelihood. It becomes your career, right?
Yeah.
And now we're going, oh my God, as a younger player, every pitch meant something. No, it does mean something, but it's like taking it on. Yeah, well, the first pitch, as well as the 85th pitch and the 97th pitch and the 110th pitch, they all mean something.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Being focused on the task at hand. And what am I doing right now? All of a sudden the catcher puts down a curveball and I go, oh my gosh, I hope I don't hang it. Well, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to hang it, right? It's my last thought. Instead of saying, hey, I can do this. I can do this. And then being able to, even at times, if you're at home, if you're in the bus, if you're in the clubhouse, you're in the dugout, wherever it is, close your eyes and see and feel yourself doing it. Feel yourself being successful. Watch yourself being successful. What did that feel like? Oh, it was a hot, sunny day, and it was tough to grip the bat. My hands were sweating, but you know what? I was able to be comfortable. What's my breathing? Feel yourself breathing. What did I have for breakfast? What did I have for lunch? How did I, all my preparation. That's what you want to try to emulate, those good days, right? And you want to do it day after day after day after day. It gets boring. It gets repetitive. It gets, it can drive you crazy, but that's the good path to be on. Whereas I think I can do this. I hope I can do this. I'm not sure if I can do this. Those are thoughts that are not going to allow you to have success.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense, man. Jamie, I remember back when I got drafted, 2013, seemed like, 30, 40 years ago almost. But man, I remember we had a conversation. I was sitting at my kitchen table back home in PA. And I remember talking to you about the mental side of the game and preparation and how you go about your business, your routine. And I'll never forget it. I literally have my notebooks here with me, man. But you told me to watch the game, be a student of the game, keep a notebook.
Yep.
If you start playing these guys enough, if you're playing a full season, you play the same teams over and over, you start keeping track of what the pitchers are throwing in certain situations, what the pitches look like, what's the off-speed pitch look like, what did he go to in the 2-2 count with one out, man on third base? Well, he's probably going to go there again, right? You kind of opened me up to that. Not only did you open me up to that, you opened me up to something else, keeping a notebook of my routine before I even touched the outfield grass at 7:05, right? So I would start tracking my sleep. Did I feel better with 8 hours of sleep as opposed to 7 hours of sleep? What did I eat for breakfast? How my workout was, what time I showed up to the field. Was I able to kind of get after it in the weight room, work on extra BP, all that stuff, but basically how I felt leading up to the game, right? So you can kind of, that not vanilla, man, but you said that boring, the repetitive routine after a while, man, that's, I guess, how you emulate success. Obviously it was, instrumental to your career, right? That's big time, that kind of preparation, man. But like, other than why it was important, for you, like what really did it do for you? So you had a book of all of the other hitters that you were going to face in the lineup, right? And aside from that, you're tracking your nutrition, your food, all that stuff, right? In hopes of able to kind of repeat a routine and kind of build on something moving forward. Man, was that tiresome? Did that kind of get old after a while?
It became part of my routine. And, the thing with me with the tracking and the notes taking, especially with the hitters, it gave me, you're facing a lot of hitters. You don't remember every pitch. You don't remember every situation. But if you go to your notes, or even I started as I got deeper into my career, I started keeping pitching charts. And I'd go back and make the changes on the pitching. If a guy maybe put the wrong pitch in the situation, or I might write a couple notes, about what the manager might, when I played in the American League early in my career, Tom Kelly was the manager of the Minnesota Twins, right? And if you were in the latter part of the game, somebody got a big hit, maybe a double, maybe it was Chuck Knobloch. Well, he was a base stealer. So what they would try to do, first or second pitch, steal third base. So I'd put that note in there. Hey, you get the base stealers on second, keep a better eye on them because they're going to try to get that guy to third. There's so many more ways to score from third than there is from second, right? So you start to, so that was a thing that Tom Kelly did, So I can remember that was a note on the top of my pitching chart, and again, what it creates is discipline. Okay, discipline. And I know we were not in the military. I know they teach discipline in the military, but self-discipline, right? That was the biggest thing for all of it, Ian, was having the self-discipline to not get caught up in, I don't have to, I can go to the ballpark an hour later today because I want to, go to a movie or, you know what? Create that time to go to the movies. I'm not condoning a movie, but you know what? It doesn't interfere with my work schedule, right? And 1 o'clock was my cutoff time to be at the ballpark. And then I'd walk in the door. I had a routine when I walked in the door, take my civilian clothes off, put my shorts on, my sneakers. First thing was, other than saying hello to my teammates, whoever was around, not many guys were around, go in the training room. I'd start my day with my arm exercises, maybe some stretching. As I got older, I did a lot of water work in the water. I did running underwater on a treadmill. Getting myself prepared physically, mentally for that day. And it might, depending on where I was in my 4 days between starts, if it was my bullpen day, then it was, my leg day, right? I did all my weight work before I went to the bullpen. I did all my cardio before I went to the bullpen. I stretched my arm. I got my uniform. Now I was loose and I might be a little tired. I like going to the bullpen on my bullpen day a little tired. Because guess what? When you get to the 6th, 7th, 8th innings, you're going to pitch a little tired. So I want to be in that situation. Now, what am I going to work on in the bullpen? What did I do well in my previous game? Or is there something I struggled with? And then who am I facing in my next outing? So I'm kind of balancing that previous game or previous games to my next outing. Who's the leadoff? You playing the Mets, Jose Reyes. You got David Wright. They had it. There was a little thing there. If Jose Reyes got on base early in the game or was on second within 3 pitches because David Wright was, at the plate, they wanted to get him to third base. So I knew that. So again, little things that I'm working on and having an awareness to, again, comes now I can add it to that management of a game. And it's not, oh my gosh, this is new. No, I just work my way into it. Right. And it just becomes part of who you are. And when you go out on that field to perform, you feel like you're prepared. That's what you want to feel. You want to feel prepared. How many times did you go on the field and maybe felt a little unprepared or you weren't ready? Or if a pitcher got called up from single A to double A or double A to triple A and you've never seen him before, how do you prepare for that? Well, I can't really prepare for that. So now I got to go back to what I do, who I am. All right, I'm going to hit the fastball. I'm not going to try to hit a slider or curveball because I can't. But maybe if I get to 2 strikes, I'm really good at learning. I've learned how to foul that pitch off, that really good bastard pitch. I can foul it off, force that pitcher to make another pitch, to try to execute another pitch.
Love it. Yeah. No, I love that. So at the time that you retired, man, you faced 8.9% of all MLB hitters. In that 25-year career, man, you've played with, against, some legends, Hall of Famers, some of the best in the world, man, that have ever done it. Aside from talent, right? Aside from that God-given ability that you're born with, man, what has been the separator that you've seen or experienced, that separates, the men from the boys?
The mental side of the game.
Yeah.
To me, it's huge, and it doesn't happen in a day. It doesn't happen in a week. I guess I told you in what was it, 2009. I had the opportunity to go and meet, or 2011, to meet Harvey Dorfman. No, was it 2011? 99. I don't know. That
earlier.
91.
Yeah, way early.
I had that opportunity to go meet Harvey, and I worked on it for the rest of my career.
Yeah.
Right. And it's how you think, it's that positivity in your thoughts, versus the negativity. We can all think, we've all been around people, right? And I look back in my career, and there's, you're around all different kinds of people. And I found that over time, after learning about the mental side of the game, the people that are negative and have the negative thoughts and are really negative people, I'm not trying to judge them, but you kind of look at them and go, well, geez, I can see why there's like negativity following you. And then you look at the guys that are positive, and you kind of see, yeah, they struggle, they have their struggles, but they find a way to create a silver lining with things and move on and become better from it. And to me, that is the separator, because when you get to the professional levels, everybody is talented, and so again, what do you do different? What makes you different? What makes you stand out? You might be the smaller guy. You might be the bigger guy that's slower. You might have a great arm, but you don't know where you're throwing it, right? So you gotta understand what that is, and you gotta also understand, how am I going to fit into this program? How am I going to fit into this team? Where's my niche?
Yeah, that's big. So we talked about it a little bit at the start. Nowadays, people are throwing 102 miles an hour, right? I feel like it's a regular occurrence. Mm-hmm. I turn the TV on, and if it's a 7, 8, 9 bullpen guy, man, they're pumping. So, man, you put up consistent numbers, solid numbers, right, over the entirety, of the majority of your career, right? Obviously, you have to build on what you're good at, find out, what makes you you. Yep. So with that, what makes you you? What was the go-to pitch in the biggest situation for you? What would you rely on?
I was a fastball changeup pitcher. My curveball was the worst pitch in my repertoire, I guess you could say. I didn't use it a whole lot. As I got older, I learned a cutter. I didn't really throw a slider. But for me, arm side, down and away, I had to be locked in. And I had to sink or swim with, I had to pitch in. I had to throw a four-seamer in. I had to stand hitters up. I had to try to get people out in. But my whole goal was to pitch down and away. And we all know down and away for pitchers is a big part of the game. Now, in today's game, not so much, because we're adding velocity and spin rate. Ooh. And those high velocity guys are throwing the ball in the upper part of the zone. And with the spin rates that they've created, the illusion that's being created is that the ball is rising. And I don't know that really a ball can rise, but it will stay on the same plane longer. Where back in our generation, spin rate wasn't a big thing, and you're just throwing your fastball. And in that space of time, the ball starts to drop a little bit because it didn't have the spin rate.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So to me, that's the difference. But in today's game, you're talking about these guys throwing 100, 102. Do they know where it's going?
Mm.
Or are they just good enough to fire it towards home plate, and they're relying on velocity? And I think that's probably the bulk of it. And again, and it's not a wrong thing, but it's just it's where the game is, and it's what baseball requires. I don't know that I could play in today's game. First of all, I wouldn't have the opportunity. Right? Because, I didn't have that kind of stuff that's going to light up a radar gun.
Yeah.
But here I did, but I had to learn it. Wasn't born with it. It didn't come in high school. It didn't come in college. And it didn't come in my first several years in the minor leagues. It came through understanding and working on it.
Love it.
Right?
Love it. Was there any specific way, maybe a different grip, or different thought that you threw your changeup with that made it, so
Oh,
dominant?
I tinkered. I was a tinkerer. I
Okay.
was a big mechanic guy. I really knew my pitching mechanics very well. And I would tinker with grips. Sometimes a changeup would feel better. I threw the
Okay.
okay changeup, and sometimes it would feel a little bit better deeper in my hand. Sometimes it would feel a little bit better on my fingertips. I get to the point where I experimented with, to change speeds on my changeup. There were times when I'd push like I was throwing a fastball, and then there were other times I wouldn't push at all off the rubber, and I could take a little bit of velocity off my changeup. So but that all comes from feel, right? And experimentation. And, not always did I have that opportunity. Could I do that and have command of that? But, there are things that you have to tinker with, little fine tuning adjustments that you would make.
Yeah, that makes
And then,
sense to me.
and then I'd have to challenge that guy in, right? Pitch in. Like today, I watch left-handed pitchers face left-handed hitters, right? There's a reason left-handed hitters are allowed to face left-handed pitchers. If you watch the game enough, most left-handed pitchers are throwing predominantly breaking balls to left-handed hitters, right? I learned that you got to throw the fastball in, drive it in there, push them back off the plate, throw the ball. A lot of left-handers have a hole right around their belt, right? I had to learn to, even at 81, 82, 83 miles an hour, because I got beat up because I didn't have velocity over the plate. I'd hang a breaking ball, I'd elevate a fastball, and they'd just tallywhack it. So, and I got tired of getting beat up. So I said, okay, here we go. I'm coming in. I'm going to learn how to pitch in. And I'll tell you what, once I was able to do that, it opened the door and opened my eyes to a lot of different opportunities as a pitcher facing left-handed hitters.
Oh, so I remember back, 2014, my first year that I got an opportunity to be up in like Major League spring training and back up. That's where I first experienced kind of playing against the big boys, right? The grown men. And so I got a mop up inning towards the end, right? But I think we were playing the Rockies, and Boone Logan was on the mound, right? A lefty, bullpen arm, and I remember I'm like, okay, I hear all these guys talking about, he's probably going to start you hard in, and then flip you some stuff, and then I get up to the plate, the wheels start spinning, the game's moving quick. Sure enough, mid 90s inside, brushed me back, and then just absolutely slidered me to death, man. It was unfair. He abused me. So I absolutely get it. I know what you're talking about. That's an incredible tool, right? Get the lefty off the plate and then just, flip him to death a little bit.
Well, the fastball, to me, as a pitcher, your game revolves around your fastball. And if you can learn, if I could give anybody advice, you're not asking, but I'm going to give it anyway. If you're a pitcher, learn, especially a young pitcher, learn how to locate your fastball to both sides of the plate and be able to do it almost with your eyes closed. That's down and away. If we got a righty up, down and away, a lefty up, down and in, on the belt into the lefty, elevated to the lefty, in. And then can I go down and away, or down and into the righty, down and away to the lefty, on the belt to the righty, in, and can I elevate up? Both sides of the plate. Can I pitch off the plate to move people, not to hit people, but to move people off the plate? Can I pitch in? Right? Can I throw a fastball anytime I want for a strike? If I'm 2-0, 3-0, 3-1, everybody in the ballpark knows I'm going to throw a fastball. Can I locate it to where I want to throw it? Do I have the confidence to throw it? I would bet most young kids today try to pitch away from contact. And if I was helping you as a coach or a confidant or whatever it would be, I would say learn how to pitch to contact. Learn how to force hitters to hit your pitches in what's the word I'm looking for? Hit your pitches when you want them to hit it, right? So when the count's in my favor, I want you to hit this changeup. I'm going to get you out front. You're not going to be hitting it, in that happy zone. I'm going to get you out on your front foot.
Yeah.
Or now I got you slow, sped up. Now I'm going to throw you a heater in, and now I'm going to jam you. And what does that do to a hitter? It creates confusion, right? In, out, up, down, what speed, and now as a pitcher, I got you eating out of my hand. right? But if I'm 2-0, if I'm 2-1, 3-0, 3-1, as a hitter, you're going, oh baby, just throw it in here because I'm gonna tallywhack it, right? So there's a way to go about it. So to me, pitch aggressively. And that's not out of control. That's not trying to hit people. That's aggressively in the zone, be able to throw strikes in the zone when you want to, and then be able to present your secondary pitches when you're ahead in the count that makes it look like a strike out of your hand, but when it gets to the plate, it's a ball.
Ooh.
Now you're creating your chase pitches, right? But can I throw that secondary pitch in the zone when I have to, right? So this is the art of pitching. Okay, we're not throwing, we're not a thrower, we're a pitcher, right? And to me, that's what we're seeing in today's game. And no disrespect, but the guys that are throwing 100, 102, they're throwers, right? They're throwers. They're just going here because the organizations are saying, here, all we want you to do is throw as hard as you can, as long as you can, because we got 3 guys behind you that'll do the same thing.
Yeah.
So when all right, whether it's 2 hitters, 3 hitters, 5 hitters, whatever it is, you're done. The next guy, right? And there's a whole corral full of them in the minor leagues, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's waiting their turn.
100%.
So yeah, you can be that guy, but also learn how to pitch, learn how to set up hitters, learn how to pitch in, especially these in these high school years and college years. And we think, well, we got it. I got it. No, you don't have it. I promise you. And even when I talk to kids, I'm like, you know what? If I could go on a mound and you could go on a mound and we each had 10 pitches, I said, I bet them. I said, I'll bet I could throw more strikes than you.
Love that.
And they kind of look at me and I go, you know why? Because I have the confidence that I could. I don't even know if I could, but I'm going to come across to you that I have the confidence to do it.
It's big.
So. I did it a lot in my career. I threw a lot of pitches in my career, and I have that confidence. Now, physically, I couldn't. I can't do it. My body's falling apart health-wise. As far as being able to compete.
Yeah.
Right. But my mind still says I can do it.
That's right. That's right.
So it's the right mind frame, Ian. It's the right mind frame, and you got to be strong. You got to be headstrong.
For sure. So Jamie, I'm so grateful for your time. I won't take up too much more. I got a couple more questions.
Sure.
That just kind of pertain to that underdog mentality.
Yeah.
So if you weren't an underdog, if you weren't, a guy that had to be crafty and rely on, the process and routine, and your repertoire, right? If you had things handed to you, if you were a first rounder, full ride, dude that kind of got every opportunity that came your way, right? Do you think you'd have the success that you were able to accomplish?
I don't even know how I would have handled that. That's a wonderful question. I don't even know that I have an answer to that because I don't know how I've reacted. I could say that I've seen a lot of players be that and are that, and some rise to the occasion and some just kind of rest on their laurels.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden people start passing them by and they go, well, what happened? Right. So to me, you got to work. And I'm glad I did it the way I did it. I'm glad I was raised the way I was raised. Blue collar family, work for a living. And, I had jobs as a young kid. So I understood, the value of working and what work took.
Yeah.
And then my parents were great role models for me as far as work. So, and they instilled it in me. You go in the weight room, you got to work. You're throwing a bullpen, you got to work. You're doing your conditioning, you got to work. And you take pride in it.
Love it.
And a lot of it was too because I had passion for it. I loved it.
Oh, that makes a ton of sense, man. So two more questions here for you. I'm gonna hit you with this one first. So this is the 9-hole podcast, right? So what does the 9-hole mean to you when you think about a 9-hole hitter, man? What comes to mind? Characteristics, qualities?
That's a great question. Well, in my day, if I was in the National League, the 9-hole was the pitcher. So I enjoyed pitching to the pitcher.
Love it. Love it.
And even then, managing my situation, I'm facing the 7-hole guy. I got or the 8-hole guy, 7 or 8-hole guy, and I got a base open. You know what? With 2 outs, I know I got the pitcher coming up. I may pitch around that guy to get to the 9-hole guy. Now you go to the American League, the 9-hole guy's a little different, right? He's a position player, but it's usually the 9-hole guy is a guy that may have occasional power. He's had some success, but no consistency with his success. But he's a threat, right? There's some sort of a threat in there that you have to respect. But to me, it's the guy that I'm going to go after.
Love it.
Right? I'm really going to get – because what happens, that 9-hole, after that guy leaves the batter's box, regardless of the outcome, guess where you are? You're at number 1, right?
Yeah.
So you don't want that – I was taught in the game that 7, 8, and 9-hole guy, they're not going to affect your game. Those are outs. They should be outs, right? But that doesn't always hold true, right? Maybe you can bunt. Maybe you can slash. Maybe you can butcher boy. You can hit and run, But as a pitcher, I respected it, those positions 7, 8, and 9. But I also understood that, I'm supposed to command that part of the order.
Love it. That makes sense to me, man. So last question I have for you. So on this underdog or, average talent mindset, right? Being the underdog, undervalued, whatever it is. Do you have any advice to a player who is labeled average or a 9-hole type hitter who has aspirations to play a quarter century in Major League Baseball like yourself?
I'd say chase it. Chase it. As long as you have a uniform on, you need to use these, your ears, and you need to use these. And maybe sometimes you need to close this and watch and listen to what's going on around you, because there can be a lot of information, a lot of good information and a lot of bad information. But what you can learn is you can learn things to do, things not to do, right? When to speak, when not to speak. But be the relentless guy, be the guy that leaves no stone unturned, because you're maybe labeled as the guy with average talent or below average talent, you can bring something above average to the table. But you have to start to find out what that is, right? And that's a hard one, because for everybody it's different, right? And you can pull on past experiences. You can pull on current experiences that you're seeing or witness. You can watch opposing players that are in the same shoes as you. You can maybe talk to those guys, right? Maybe you have a couple of coaches in your organization in the minor leagues or in the big leagues that were that guy. Because I find that I quickly think back of, like, over the course of my career, a lot of the coaches I had in the big leagues, some were very successful, but the majority were average players to below average players. But they were workers. They were diligent. They were great people. I'm not saying it makes them bad people. Something just didn't allow them to get over the hump. And then they got a little bit older. Maybe they matured and they're going, oh, yeah, but now I want to teach. I want to work. I want to help people, right? And it's the same way. You gotta, you gotta fight for yourself. You've got to go out and search and work hard. And like I said, sometimes you get one opportunity, and you don't know when that opportunity is going to come. If it comes, you got to be prepared for it.
Love it.
Yeah. And I don't know that you can ever fully prepare for it, but you can prepare to the best of your ability. And if you mentally think that you are prepared, you're prepared until somebody shows you different.
Yes. That makes sense. Jamie Moyer, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being a part of the 9-hole. Thank you, man. Thank you very much for your time. Yeah, baby. So appreciate everybody tuning in. This is a very special episode. Thank you. We will catch you guys next time.